It's beautiful outside, but we've been lucky with the weather lately. This time of year where everything is changing, shorter days, color of leaves, the way we eat, and one that no one likes, the change in mood. And joining me to talk about this is Dr. Paul Arciero. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Paula.
So let's talk about this. I'm a positive person by nature, but you know, with the weather changing and like Saturday, for example, was kind of a moody day. What can people do? Let's talk about this.
Yeah, I don't know, that's a tough one. Saturday was rough. You know, the gloom and doom it felt like outside. So what can people do? Well, for some people it's a real struggle. So we'll start there. So for some people that really have a difficult time pulling themselves up out of that, you know, that dark place that they kind of go to when the days have gotten shorter, the weather's gotten colder, they're affected by something called seasonal affective disorder. So it's real. I know. We often kind of categorize people as, you know, maybe being not as mentally tough. Right. You know, but it's real for a lot of people.
Some people call it the blues too, right?
And the blues, the winter blues.
Right.
Yeah. So there's certain lifestyle things that people can do to help pull them out of that.
Get out of that.
Yeah, just get out of it.
So how do they do? What can they do?
So, well, the first one, they can do light therapy. I'm looking at these lights, you know, glaring down at us.
That's why we're so happy here. We just have all this light.
Just come to the studio and you will be out of your seasonal affective disorder. No, but actually it's true that you can do light therapy. That's probably the single most effective line of defense. So people would just buy a light and they would sit in front of it for about 30 minutes a day. And that, believe it or not, one session can lift a person's mood.
Really?
Yeah.
So if you do that every single day? They
do it, yep. They can do it every day during the winter months. Yeah, 30 minutes is all you need.
Wow.
And so people respond very, very well to it. So that's one strategy.
Okay.
Can I keep going?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, the second one that's proven very effective is cognitive behavioral therapy, so brain therapy. And here's what I mean by that. As we just started talking about when you got on air, you're a bubbly person. I like to think myself the same way. But for some people, their first reaction is to think a little bit more negative. Right. And so they have what are called ants, like little ants, you know, that creep and bug us.
Ants in your brain?
Yeah, they annoy us when we're at a picnic. You know, that's what I think about. You know,
I hate ants.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate them.
So a lot of people let ants get inside their head. And what that stands for is automatic negative thoughts. And so for some people, they struggle with stamping out those ants. They just seem to infiltrate into their thought process. And so they need to undergo cognitive behavioral therapy to instead develop PATs, and those are positive automatic thoughts.
I like that.
So you pat out the ants. Yeah, isn't that a cool little acronym?
I like that.
So as soon as you feel those ants starting to get all up in your head and self-talk you into a negative way, when you look outside and it's darker out and it's colder, you got to immediately turn that switch and give yourself some positive automatic thoughts. Because that's really what it's all about.
Right.
And some of this is chemically driven. So we know that when the days get shorter, and the nights get longer, we have the release of a brain chemical called melatonin. And so that melatonin is what's released when we're sleeping. And so in some people who slumber too long, that melatonin can last a little bit longer and it can affect their sleep cycle.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
And we mentioned vitamin D also.
Vitamin D is huge.
Vitamin D?
Yeah, vitamin D. So we know that there are certain foods that are fortified with vitamin D. Milk being the primary one. All right, so
I love
you know those cows, you know, eating up the grass, are producing the milk for us, and then in the production process we put in vitamin D. So some people have, you know, a pretty decent absorption of vitamin D, but other people don't absorb it that well. And for people who don't drink a lot of milk, they run the risk of being vitamin D deficient. So a huge, I think, relationship between seasonal affective disorder and diet has to do with vitamin D.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so they have to take supplements.
Okay. And people tend to eat more too, right? People a little bit depressed, moody, you tend to eat a lot more.
I don't know about you, but man, when I get a little bummed, I mean, I'm diving into some, you know, ice cream
and
or
chips
cookies
and all that bad
chips.
Food that we don't want to eat.
Listen, it goes hand in hand. Comfort foods and gloomy, kind of depressed
So what can
energy.
we do to stop that? Because then we're going to gain weight.
Absolutely.
We don't want that.
No, we don't. We don't. So what we need to do is we need to keep a really good core of social contacts. And so it's well known that to combat seasonal affective disorder, get people out socializing. have them interact.
And we're going to get the typical, you know, it's too cold outside, I don't want to go outside.
Right.
So
well,
what can we do?
Build in an excuse. I think that's great, and that's real life. Build in an excuse that you can't not fulfill, and that would be doing something for someone else. So doing some service-oriented type projects in the middle of the winter that puts you out into the community and doing things for other people. Because as you well know, you know, when we start to give of ourselves to other people, that becomes a source of real positive energy and fulfillment. So one of the strategies is just to get people out into the community doing things for other people.
That's a great
So
idea.
go to the soup kitchen, cook up you know, a meal for people in the community that don't have access to healthy food, and then you yourself have to make sure that you go and purchase the right healthy foods that keep your mood in a positive spirit.
And volunteering is also a good way to get those patents, right?
The PATs, yeah.
The PATs, right.
Positive automatic thoughts, there you go. So volunteering and being out in the community is a great way to combat it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. This was so positive and uplifting.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
On a slightly dreary day.
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
So to see this interview again, just head to our website, Look TV Online, and you can take a look at the events happening in your neighborhood.